Hello, I'm Paweł from Epsilon, and in this short presentation, I will tell you what is GxP in clinical software development. Let's start with a short introduction. What is an FDA submission? It refers to the process by which pharma companies submit their data and documents to the FDA to gain approval for a product such as new drug or medical device. There can be different types of submission. It can be new drug application, biologics license application, pre-market approval, or 510(k). How is GxP used in the FDA submission process? GxP refers to good practice guidelines and regulations in various industries. And these guidelines ensure that products are safe, effective, and they have high quality. During the FDA submission process, compliance with GxP standards is critical. And on this slide, you can see different types of GxP guidelines. It can be current good manufacturing practice, good laboratory practice, good clinical practice, good distribution practice, good pharmacovigilance practice, good automated manufacturing practice. What kind of good programming practices are used during FDA submission process? And in some materials, you can find these guidelines named as good software engineering practices, so you can treat them as synonyms. During the FDA submission process, software engineering practices are essential, particularly when software is used in the development, manufacturing, or control of medical devices or drugs. And these practices ensure that software systems are reliable, safe, and compliant with regulatory requirements. Under good programming practices, you can find different detailed guidelines. They can be related to development, reproducibility, software validation, cybersecurity, access control, documentation, data management, software development lifecycle, and risk management. What can you find in good development practices? Everything starts from the definition of done. So when your software development process follows done criteria defined in the beginning of your development process, it can increase the quality of your project. In good development practices, using version control is recommended. So if you use version control systems, you can track changes and maintain an audit trail of all modifications. It's also recommended to use code review. Developers review their code after every change added to the code repository. Also, if you automate your builds, your process will be automated and it will ensure consistent and repeatable builds. What's in good reproducibility practices? It's version control. So it allows you to reproduce code state at any point of development. You can analyze it and reproduce it or revert your changes. Using change control. So the process to document, track all software changes, ensuring each modification is reviewed, tested, and approved. It's also dependency management, so that libraries, packages, and the environment used to run the code are easy to recreate. It's also documentation. So you keep clear documentation, and it's related to manuals, readmes, code comments, so that they allow you to run the code on other machines after many years with different development teams. What's in good software validation practices? There is verification and validation process, so that software verification ensures that each phase of the development meets the specified requirements in the definition of done. And the validation ensures that the final software meets the intended use and performs correctly in real-world conditions. To clarify how you can validate it, you can use different ways of testing software on different levels of abstraction. Starting from the lowest level of abstraction, you can use unit testing, so that automated tests check your every function in the code, which is a unit. There are also integration testing, automated tests of every component in the system, end-to-end tests. So automatically you test the whole interface. It can be graphical user interface or API or something else. There can be also manual testing, performed by quality assurance experts. And you can also have performance testing. So you can check how software behaves in extreme cases. For example, when multiple users use your solution. In the software validation practices, you can also use risk-based validation. So to check your software and its components that directly impact the product safety, quality, and performance. What's in good cybersecurity practices? It's vulnerability management, so that you regularly scan and patch software vulnerabilities, especially in medical devices or systems with patient data. You should also validate your open source packages. We should only trust validated packages. It's also secure software development, so your developers follow secure coding practices to prevent common security issues like SQL injection or buffer overflow. What's in good access control practices? So in access control, you define roles and implement authentication mechanisms to control who can modify, access, or review software code and data. In audit trails, you maintain audit trails to document who accessed or modified the software and system configurations, so you ensure traceability and accountability. What's in good documentation practices? You should ensure that it's complete, so all software-related activities, including development, testing, and validation, are documented clearly and accurately. It should be understandable so that documentation can be reviewed by regulatory bodies, including all test results, code changes, risk assessment, and validation reports. It should help you with reproducibility, so that clear documentation allows you to run the code on other machines after many years with different development teams. What's in data management? It can be also named data governance. It's data validation, so you ensure that your data is accurate, complete, without duplicates, and it follows one formatting standard. It's also data integrity, so you implement mechanisms like encryption or hashing to ensure that data generated by the software is complete and secure. It's also data security, so your data is protected. What's in risk management? There is risk assessment, so you identify, assess, and mitigate risks related to software development, focusing on patient safety and data integrity. There is also failure mode and effects analysis, so you can use this methodology to analyze potential failures and mitigate risks associated with the software. What is in software development lifecycle? SDLC process defines you clear phases, so you ensure software development follows well-defined phases like defining requirements, designing, coding, testing, validation, and then maintenance. There is also important part of documentation. Every phase of the SDLC must be thoroughly documented, as the FDA requires traceability from requirements to the final product. If you have challenges with GxP in your software engineering process, reach out to us and we will be happy to talk. Thank you.